Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 33 of Women's Wrestling Focus, brought to you by SEScoops and hosted by me, Ella J. of a Wrestling Gal podcast. And today we are here to break down and preview the ongoing WWE Women's Tag Team Championship Tournament, which is set to crown a new pair of main roster tag team champions in WWE amidst the absence of the Boss Sasha Banks and the Glow Naomi. Of course, we will get into all of that as this tournament is already ongoing with two official quarterfinal matches concluded as two teams have moved on and two quarterfinal matches still yet to happen. Of course, 8 teams were announced in this tournament with a mix of SmackDown, Raw, and even an NXT team. So, of course, without further ado, let's get into the episode and break everything down. Now, WWE first made note of an upcoming Women's Tag Team Championship tournament back in May, just after Sasha Banks and Naomi had reportedly walked out and vacated their championships and handed them over. Of course, we have not seen the Boss or Naomi since May, about mid-May, so it's been 3 months now without the duo, and of course, the duo just actually made their first appearance since walking out of WWE at C2E2 in Chicago, a fan convention where they signed autographs and took photos with fans, so that was the first time that we had seen Sasha Banks and Naomi in public since all of this has been happening. They've been fairly quiet on social media, sharing a little bit of tweets and Instagram stories and all of that, but they haven't really spoken in public since then, so this was really the first time that the fans were getting to see them since their absence from WWE 3 months ago. So that is something to note as well. WWE, obviously, under this new management of Triple H, has already brought back some former WWE stars, like we'll get into today here in this tournament. Most recently, they just brought back Hit Row last night on SmackDown. They've obviously brought back Dexter Lumis and Karrion Kross and Scarlett Bordeaux, but they've also brought back 2 former champions in WWE, or should I say NXT. I'm talking about Io Sky, formerly Io Shirai, and Dakota Kai. Of course, Io Shirai had been out injured for a couple months, and Dakota Kai had gotten released from NXT in late April, which made their appearance at WWE SummerSlam all the more worthwhile. Obviously, after defeating Becky Lynch, Bianca Belair was surprised by a returning Bayley, of course, the longest reigning SmackDown Women's Champion of all time, but Bayley was not alone. She came with a little bit of backup to confront the EST of WWE, also the Raw Women's Champion. So Bayley arrived in grand style to a great pop, but like I said, she wasn't alone. Dakota Kai first shocked the audience after being absent from WWE since the end of April following her release. She hadn't officially signed anywhere, but obviously now under the new management and head of creative Triple H, Dakota Kai is now back in WWE action, but the surprises didn't stop just there. Of course, former NXT Women's Champion and former NXT Women's Tag Team Champion Io Shirai, now named Io Sky, also showed up. She had been absent following an injury, and of course there was some discussion and complications about whether she was leaving WWE or if she was staying with her contract set to expire soon, but it obviously appears that she has re-signed with the company, and now Io Sky, and she is aligned with Dakota Kai and Bayley, and these three have been absolutely running Raw, running everywhere, starting out at SummerSlam. Obviously, they didn't get a quite hold of the EST as Becky Lynch stepped in to save her, but Dakota Kai, Io Sky, and Bayley have certainly been putting the Raw Women's division on notice, and rightfully so. They were entered into the official WWE Women's Tag Team Championship Tournament, and before we get into the brackets and all of that, like I said, this tournament is to crown the new WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. However, technically, Sasha Banks and Naomi never lost them. They just vacated them, in theory. And with all these returns happening lately, there's been a lot of speculation that maybe the winners of this tournament might not actually win the titles. Maybe Sasha Banks and Naomi will show up at the finals and claim we never lost our championships, and maybe they become interim champions and face the winners. It's a little bit complicated. Again, that's just a theory that has been going around on social media. Maybe this is the time for Sasha Banks and Naomi to return to WWE. Again, nothing is confirmed as of this video. WWE has been throwing us a lot of surprises lately, so I definitely wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility for a Sasha and Naomi return. I will say I think it will make things a lot spicier if that ends up being the case, if they confront the winners of this tournament in the finals and kind of come back and claim what was rightfully theirs and retake it, or at least challenge the winners of this tournament. I think that could be really enticing. Again, we don't know for certain the futures of Sasha Banks and Naomi, but I would hope that under new management, they would want to get two really hot stars like Sasha and Naomi, who are very well respected in the industry and great workers and former champions and all the good stuff, because Sasha Banks and Naomi are definitely money and are definitely crowd drawers, and they draw money. So hopefully we get to see maybe Sasha Banks and Naomi at the end of this. But like I said, officially right now, putting it out of the realm of possibility, WWE has confirmed that the winners of this 8-team tournament will claim and be crowned the new main roster WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. And in this tournament, like I said, we had 8 teams. Obviously, 2 teams have already advanced to the semifinals, but starting off, we had a mix of SmackDown, Raw, and 1 team of NXT stars. And I obviously think that has to do with the maybe limited availability of some stars in the absence of a lot of stars on SmackDown. SmackDown is missing a lot of stars right now. Charlotte Flair is out. We have Ronda Rousey has been indefinitely suspended. Obviously, Sasha Banks and Naomi are gone. So SmackDown already was down 4 women, even after Liv Morgan came over to the brand. Again, she's in a whole different program right now, though, she's in a whole program right now, though, defending against Shayna Baszler at Clash at the Castle. So taking those 2 out of it, you have 6 women already out of the realm of possibility for this tag team tournament. So that is why, or at least I assume why, we do have 1 NXT team in this tournament, and a lot of people were shocked at maybe the biggest plot twist of this tournament being Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark facing Natalya and Sonya Deville in their quarterfinals matchup. Now, obviously, Natalya has wandered into the land of NXT. She, a few months ago, faced a few of the NXT competitors on NXT 2.0 and Level Up, so she's been kind of floating between both brands over the last couple of months. But again, with no really official legit tag teams outside of maybe an Io Sky and Dakota, and we've seen Nikki ASH and Doudrop team before in the past. A lot of these teams were just thrown together, especially the right side of the bracket board. So we'll start off with the right side then on that track. Obviously, on the right side is a lot of SmackDown heavy talent. Actually, the entire right side is SmackDown and NXT. So obviously in the top right, we had Raquel Gonzalez, former NXT Women's Champion, teaming with Aaliyah, facing Xia Li and Shotzi last night on SmackDown, actually. So in the end of that, Raquel Gonzalez and Aaliyah defeated Xia Li and Shotzi to advance to the semifinals. Now, their semifinals competitor has yet to be determined and will maybe assumingly happen on NXT or maybe even SmackDown next week. We have not gotten an official announcement, but I would assume that it would be happening next week on NXT 2.0 or SmackDown, considering the competitors in the bottom right of the bracket are from NXT and SmackDown. It's got to be one or the other. So in the bottom right, we have Nikita Lyons teaming with Zoe Stark, who just returned last month to NXT after being out on injury. She obviously earned herself an NXT Women's Championship opportunity after winning the Battle Royal, but she's also inserted into this WWE Women's Tag Team Championship tournament, which I think is fairly interesting considering Nikita and Zoe have never teamed up before prior to this. Obviously, they needed a pair of baby faces going into this match because you have Natalya and Sonya Deville facing them. So maybe they felt those two were the best fit. Obviously, NXT has been pushing Nikita Lyons to be this monster babyface and really plowing through the competition. She's racked up so many wins since coming to WWE on NXT a few months ago, earlier this year. And of course, Zoe Stark has just returned. So this team dynamic between Nikita and Zoe is still yet to be determined. Obviously, I assume we will be seeing it next week. It's going to be interesting to see how they team together. I think they might work well together. They're obviously baby faces. Nikita is a powerhouse and Zoe is great in the ring as well. But going against two veterans in the business, Natalya, who basically has wrestling in her blood. She's been in WWE for about 14, 15 years now. And of course, she is teaming with Sonya Deville, who has returned to the ring in recent months after being let go from her on-screen official job, but it's good to see Sonya Deville back more consistently in in-ring competition. She will be teaming with Natalya, obviously the heel dynamic in this case. I think WWE is going to surprise us and have NXT advance in this corner of the bracket. The way I'm anticipating this finals to be, I truly believe is going to be NXT versus Raw in the finals. I think this is really going to serve as protecting Nikita Lyons' winningness. Is winningness a word? It's gonna be. Obviously, they are very high on Nikita Lyons, and so I think they're gonna protect her streak in this. Or even if they do lose, I don't see it being cleanly, unless Zoe Stark takes the pin. But I think that they're strategically placing Nikita and Zoe here to go all the way to the finals. And again, that would be a huge win for them to defeat two veterans in WWE in the form of Natalya and Sonya Deville. I do think obviously Natalya and Sonya obviously have the in-ring experience, at least in WWE, to be able to carry this match. And so I do think, though, that they've been booking Nikita so strong that she is just going to absolutely dominate. And whoever takes the pin between Natalya and Sonya is definitely going to make Nikita and Zoe look like legit contenders, as again, they are the only NXT representation in this tournament. So officially, I foresee Nikita and Zoe moving on to the semifinals to face the new team also of Raquel and Aaliyah. Again, though, then in that scenario, you would have two powerhouses between Nikita and Raquel, but I do truly think that they are going to catapult Nikita and Zoe to the finals of this tournament. So, in my estimations, NXT is going to be making it to the finals. Now, again, I could be completely wrong as they run this match next week on either NXT or SmackDown, and Natalya and Sonya could advance. Again, maybe they want all main roster in the semifinals. However, I do think it is an interesting insertion of NXT into this tournament, obviously because they needed numbers, but with who they chose, I definitely foresee them going all the way to the finals. Again, who would their competitors be, though? Obviously, we do have one team confirmed for the semifinals so far, as last week on Raw, we had a quarterfinals matchup, actually the first in the entire tournament, between Tamina and Dana Brooke teaming up to face the team of Io Sky, aka Io Shirai, and Dakota Kai. Now, obviously, Io Sky, Dakota Kai, Bayley have been absolutely running rampant on Raw, so it was no surprise that they took home the victory against Tamina and Dana Brooke to advance, which I absolutely think is the right call. They were really one of the only two, I would say, legitimate, or at least on-screen tag teams that we were aware of prior to this tournament. Granted, it was only for about 2 or 3 weeks, but still, the WWE Universe was already a little bit familiar with them as a tag team, and I absolutely believe that this is the right call to have Io Sky and Dakota Kai advance. Obviously, they've been dominant on Raw besides Bayley, and honestly, I think they're going to be in the finals as well. However, there is a team on the bottom left-hand side of the board that could give them a run for their money, which I honestly think is going to be match of the tournament. So let's just get into it. Obviously, in the bottom left-hand corner, on this upcoming Monday on Raw, we have the third quarterfinals matchup taking place with Raw tag teams, with Alexa Bliss teaming with Asuka to take on, again, a team that we actually saw on screen a little bit with Nikki ASH and Doudrop. However, this match feels fairly obvious in the outcome unless something absolutely crazy happens. So Alexa Bliss and Asuka, I believe, are going to be advancing and defeating ASH and Doudrop to then advance to the semifinals. However, anything can happen in the land of WWE, and with Io Sky, Dakota Kai, and Bayley having already issues with Alexa Bliss and Asuka and tension rising there, it's not out of the realm of possibility that maybe they could cost them their match in the quarterfinals, and we see an upset win of Nikki ASH and Doudrop. That would definitely shake things up and make it a little bit more unpredictable. However, though, a part of me really wants to see this potential semifinals matchup between Io Sky and Dakota Kai versus Alexa Bliss and Asuka. I think if that happens to be the case, Bianca Belair is going to be on standby for Alexa and Asuka, as Bayley is most definitely going to be accompanying Io Sky and Dakota Kai. And just overall with the competitors in that matchup, again, all former champions in WWE, Io Sky, Dakota Kai, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, they have many championship accolades to their names and great competition and great in-ring competitors as well. So for me, that would actually be the most compelling matchup of the entire tournament. So I'm really hoping we get it. However, like I said, I could see Bayley maybe helping to cost Alexa and Asuka their quarterfinals matchup, and maybe we get Io and Dakota versus Nikki and Doudrop in there, and then that easily forges a path for Io Sky and Dakota Kai to go to the finals, because I think either way, though, you have to have Io Sky and Dakota Kai continue the reign of dominance and go all the way to the finals of this tournament to face, like I said, the maybe biggest surprise of this entire tournament, Nikita Lyons and Zoe Stark. Now, it may seem a little strange, but I mean, they're also all former or current NXT stars, so I actually think it makes it a little bit more fun. Obviously, in the vision now of Triple H, NXT is basically his wheelhouse and was his baby for the longest time, so I think it would be really cool now that under Triple H's and Stephanie and Nick Khan's guidance that we have like an all former or current NXT representation in the tournament. Although, however, Alexa and Asuka were also in NXT as well. But I think in more recent memory, obviously, Io Sky and Dakota Kai just got officially called up at SummerSlam, so they haven't been on the main roster that long yet. So I think it would be a really cool callback to kind of have the NXT versus NXT 2.0 kind of going at it in the finals. Again, this is just all in my predictions. I could be completely wrong. Let me know down below, who do you think is going to be making it all the way to the finals? And obviously, who do you think is going to be winning these final two quarterfinal matchups between Alexa Bliss and Asuka versus Nikki ASH and Doudrop, and of course, Nikita and Zoe versus Natalya and Sonya? I think it could go a couple of ways, but I do think in the end, for sure, Io Sky and Dakota Kai are going to be there. Now, the right side I'm a little bit more unsure about, but I could see it being kind of NXT versus NXT 2.0. So I think this tournament makes it exciting. Obviously, actually most of these teams were just thrown together. However, I have hope that if they invest in these tag team championships, this could be a really strong division with all these teams in the tournament, especially on Raw. Like, even just the left side of the board, like, those are some teams I could actually see being legit. Obviously, Dakota and Io are already been teaming together for a few weeks. We've seen Nikki and Doudrop teaming together in recent months. Alexa and Asuka have aligned to help out Bianca Belair. So there's some drawing power there. Again, it all comes down to creative booking, though, and I can only hope and pray that they follow through with this. But again, waiting in the wings with whoever wins in this finals, which I truly believe should be Io Sky and Dakota Kai, it makes it even more exciting with the possibility of maybe the former champions confronting them in the finals. Again, never say never in the world of professional wrestling, especially with WWE, because we've already seen many surprises earlier this year. And with this newfound hope under the guidance of a guy like Triple H, I think a lot of people are hoping for the unexpected. Expect the unexpected at this point. You never know. Even if Sasha and Naomi don't return, I think this tournament hopefully re-cements the women's tag team division and really creates meaningful and worthwhile storylines and doesn't get lost in the shuffle again with breaking up tag teams, and then all of a sudden you're down to one or two teams in the division. So hopefully this allows the tag team division, the main roster one at least, to rejuvenate and really get itself back together, because there's a lot of very talented women in this tournament. I have a lot of high hopes, but I do believe, obviously, with the main roster call-ups and the obvious attention to Io Sky and Dakota Kai, that it would make sense for them to win, and I think they're going to win the whole thing again, unless something crazy happens and Alexa, Asuka, Bianca possibly cost them it in the finals. I don't really know. I could be completely wrong and they're not even in the finals at all, but that's what makes it more fun. It's fun to not know everything and have it be a little bit more unpredictable. It keeps viewers tuning in. So obviously I've told my theory in this women's tag team championship tournaments, but I want to know yours. So anybody watching this right now, let me know down in the comments down below, what are your predictions for not only the finals of this tournament, but who do you think is going to become the new WWE women's tag team champions? I think there's a few viable options here. And also, could Sasha Banks and Naomi potentially be returning? I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, but again, I don't really know everything that goes on backstage, so who knows? I could be completely wrong, but we'll see what happens. It's definitely keeping me tuned in to Raw and SmackDown and NXT as well. So again, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Women's Wrestling Focus. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to SEScoops so you can be first informed on all our exclusive content here on the YouTube channel. And without further ado, this has been episode 33 of Women's Wrestling Focus with the breakdown of your WWE Women's Tag Team Championship Tournament.